Are you PCSing to San Diego and you want to know every single thing about from an actual veteran who has lived here? Well, in this video is for you. I'm going to cover everything you need to know depending what base you're staying at, where should you live to get the best drive time, maybe the best schools, location to that base if you're not living on base, if you should live on base because, hey, like being in the Marine Corps when I was stationed in Miramar, it's kind of the same problem I went through, and I actually avoided getting involved in this stuff a long time before I really figured out San Diego and actually avoid a lot of the good things that there is to be about San Diego. Because while I'm a huge person who obviously has a lot of issues with California, I can tell you that San Diego is not the worst place to be stationed. It is a lot better than so many other places I have been to. So we're going to get into it right now. Okay, so before I pull up a map, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up each single base that you possibly could be stationed at around San Diego, and I'm going to talk about each area you could live at, what types of homes and areas are there, what you can expect for cost and rent and all of that. Because personally, but first I want to get into, kind of what you need to know before you get stationed here. Because some of you probably have already been stationed here, or maybe your spouse has been, and this is your first time you're getting stationed there. It doesn't really matter what you're going to be going on in this situation, but I've noticed, obviously being someone who has helped veterans a lot since getting out of the military in 2018, I can tell you that so many times a lot of people on YouTube who aren't even veterans telling veterans what it's like to get stationed here, and I'm like, you don't even know what it's like to drive to base every day, other than maybe you went to the front gate. Like, come on, get out of here, right? Like, I can still get on base right now as it is. So look, coming from someone who has done it for 5 years. I spent 4 of those years here in San Diego, minus deployments and of course of all that stuff. But I learned a lot during that time. I've even done, oh my God, I still remember when I have to go from Miramar, and I live up in San Marcos, and there are days I would get off work around like 5 p.m., 4 to 5 p.m., and it would take me 2 hours to get home because the traffic was so bad on the 15 highway heading north. And look, it really matters where you live, but it also depends on your budget at the same time. And I know a lot of people are like, the easy cop out is like, I'll just live on base and that's what I'm going to do. And that can be an okay thing. But I think for a lot of veterans, one, a lot of times there's a waiting list to live on base, so you're probably screwed anyways. And two, why would you want Lincoln Housing to take your money? Because I don't know about you, but I've seen like some of the housing conditions on base, and I'm like, no way. It's like barely any better than the barracks, to be honest with you. So you really got to consider where you want to live, what your budget is, how far you're looking to go. There's a lot to talk about here in San Diego. Actually, even right now, as I helped another client who reached out for me on this channel, and they are in the same boat trying to figure that out. We'll get into it here in a second on that one. But see, what's other topics I want to think about? Oh, so like obviously cost of living. San Diego's not cheap. Obviously your BH is probably going to be higher unless you're coming from like Hawaii or something like that. Your BH is probably going to be higher than where you're coming from. So remember, like, it's not a full slap in the face. And thankfully last year we did get a BH raise for those that are still active duty here. But look, it's one of those places that like it's still not cheap. Guess what? You're probably going to spend all of your BH at least for housing. And you're either going to give it to Lincoln Housing for on base, or you're going to give it up for living out in town. Now, there are some solutions. Maybe I'll talk about at the end of this video, but for the rest of us, those that have family and like the average, veteran and military member getting stationed here, like you're not really going to dabble in those too much, but I'll talk about them at the end. Some ways that you can cut costs in San Diego, some tips and tricks I have learned, especially, thankful to my wife who's really big into couponing and all that stuff. Like there are ways to kind of get your budget down while living in San Diego. And while it seems super expensive up front, there are little tips and tricks, especially when you got that BEH and that stuff like that, to where you can really make sure that you're okay when it comes to living here. And I'll talk about those after doing that map tour, but let's cut to the map right now. All right, so here's the map of San Diego. And before we dive into it, I just wanted to say something real quick. Obviously, being a veteran, and I am also a real estate agent here in California, licensed, and I specifically help veterans. In fact, I just had to help someone put a down payment on a home, and I forgot that like I haven't written a down payment for a home in a super long time because I've been helping veterans so much. And me and my team here are literally dedicated just helping veterans who are PCSing here, trying to figure out that real estate side of the business. And I'm here to help guide you through that process from step A to Z, because it's already stressful having to make that move, having done it with my family. And at the time I only had one son, but now I got 3. But at the time I only had 1, and I'm here to help you along that process. So this number popping up below that you'll see right now, you can call me, text me, email me. It doesn't really matter. here at Agency of the Armed Forces, we are here to help you through that process, like the entirety when it comes to making real estate decisions here in San Diego. So reach out. Let's have a quick phone call, see if we can answer all that questions that you have. Because if you come here and you've never been here, like you're going to be lost in the process. And you want to make sure you have someone who has your best interest at heart. Because there's a lot of other people you're going to see on this platform who are not even veterans trying to tell you how to PCS here. I'm like, they probably don't even know what PCS stands for. So, all right. But getting into it, obviously, we're going to start all the way at the bottom. So let's say you're going to Coronado, all right? Coronado, beautiful place. Unless you can afford like a $2 to $5 million home, you are not living on Coronado, all right? Obviously, they have housing on Main Side in San Diego, which is where you will be staying if you choose base housing. Ultimately, though, there's a couple areas that you need to consider. So here's the thing when it comes to home prices and rent in San Diego. So home prices, you will see if you look it up online, the average home price is like $750,000 plus, depending what area you're looking at. All right. Does that mean that that's the cost of homes? Heck no. You can find homes that are even just below 600, at 600, 650. It's variable. Now, if you're trying to live in a nice neighborhood, sure, it's going to be at that higher price point. But don't think you can't get into a home because you see the average price point. The thing with San Diego is, whether you're renting or buying, those costs of living, you're going to be kind of living in either not nice areas. And I'm not going to talk them right now. You can look up, do your own crime data research on that one. I think I have some other videos on this channel regarding that. Or you're gonna be traveling that distance. So you have to remember, like, it's not a cheap city to live in. And a lot of veterans I see, military members who are getting stationed here in San Diego, their first instinct is to like, how can I just live the cheapest possible? But especially if you have kids at all, it makes it even more complicated. But you have to make sure you understand, like, the biggest thing is gonna be driving time and how long are you trying to stay away from your spouse and things like that. But maybe you're not in that situation. Maybe it's just you by yourself. Congratulations if you're one of those Navy guys who they just seem to give BAH to everyone. Hey, in the Marine Corps, like, until you're a freaking staff sergeant or, you know, you decide to get that courthouse marriage, like you're not gonna be living out in town with BAH. Like, they keep you in the barracks. It is like literally the dumbest thing. And I have like those new Navy guys and girls that come here, and you just like, you're gifted this magical BAH. Like, apparently you guys don't have barracks on base because you guys are all just getting BAH at E4 and above. So, you know, congratulations on that one. But so Coronado, all right. So a lot of people don't like living near the border. Look, honestly, San Ysidro isn't that bad. There are good blocks, bad blocks, things like that. You just have to make sure you choose the right area. Same with Chula Vista. Chula Vista National City, you start to get a little bit heavier on the crime rates. You can look it up publicly. Like I said, my goal is not to steer you away from these places, because the interesting thing, San Diego is just any city, right? You're going to have good blocks, bad blocks. And you might see someone says national cities, you know, they call it national shitty, right? But the funny thing about it is, like, there still are good areas there. So don't think that just because one area might look bad, really, you have to make sure you drive the blocks, know each community and what's going on there. And there's a lot of more complications that get into that. It's not just as simple as like, there's Chula Vista, it's just a bad place to live. No, it's way more complicated than that, especially depending on your budget, what you're looking for, what schools you're trying to get into, if you have kids, a lot of stuff. Or hey, maybe you're going to college while going active duty. That could play into it as well. So this area obviously is going to get you good to Coronado. All right. A lot of people, they do find homes. Now, obviously, I will tell you, like, if you're looking to get probably like 30 to 40 minutes from base on average, right? Traffic, if there's one accident, it's going to be a lot longer. It just happens. It's like any city. All right. Some of the nicest single family homes you're going to find that are relatively good neighborhoods, a little bit older though, like built in the 40s, 50s, 60s, things like that. This includes rent as well. It's going to be like Claremont, Linda Vista, all the way. So right between the 5 and the 15. That's like, or in this case, the 163 as well, but it can go all the way to the 67. All right. That whole stretch is a lot of single family homes, a lot of condos. They're not bad. But what you're looking at right here is this area right here is where you're going to get about like that 30-40 minute mark driving to base. All right. Now, I know a lot of veterans who they find a lot of great condos and other single family homes. Lemon Grove tends to be more affordable compared to, like, let's say, like, if you look at Claremont right now, you're probably going to see an average of like $1.2 million for a home. All right. And that means rents are like $4,500 a month at least. Now, heading to Lemon Grove, Spring Valley, you start to get more affordable, but your drive time does increase to like 45 minutes. So you have to be aware that, like I said before, like, you're giving giving up something, whether it's money or time, living and being stationed in San Diego, and you have to make sure you kind of figure that out. What are you willing to tolerate? What are you not willing to tolerate? And don't be one of those veterans that gets out here and just like, I know you want to live in a nice area, but if you can't afford it, like, you to be smart. You have no idea how many times I see veterans that move here and the city causes them to get more in debt. So you got to be mindful. And if you don't know, you can always reach out to someone like me and we can sit down and have this specific conversation to your needs and really have a good conversation about this. So if you're chasing on Coronado, and actually this kind of applies to 32nd Street as well. All right, so we'll roll both of these in right now. But the thing with Coronado is obviously you can come up from the 75 on Imperial Beach, so San Ysidro starts opening up to you, maybe the southern part of Chula Vista. You know, you have Otay Ranch. Like, there are good communities throughout here that are good. The problem is if you're on 32nd Street, they get maybe a little bit more uncomfortable than you want to deal with for traffic. And that's why a lot of people look at the Claremonts, the Linda Vistas, you have Allied Gardens. And if you want to get like that little more affordability, then you have like the Lemon Grove, Spring Valley, Grossmont. You start getting out that way towards El Cajon, and you start finding a way more affordable homes compared to the Linda Vista and the Claremonts, and being right in this downtown San Diego. So Coronado, 32nd Street, that's where a lot of my Navy members that use me and my team, that's where a lot of them end up living. To be honest with you, obviously, because I was stationed on Miramar, I didn't look at these areas all too much because my wife is from North County and we were just always going to there, which I will get to here for the Marines here in a second. But yeah, so like obviously you're going to have the most expensive stretch through here. Base housing is right here. If you want to find more affordable homes, you're going to be looking to Lemon Groves, El Cajon, Spring Valley, things like that. I'm going to throw this in right now before we get to the Marine side of it between Miramar and Pendleton is, look, if you're willing to drive a couple hours, I even have military members that go all the way up to Temecula, Marietta. Is it a nice area? Gorgeous. For the price point compared to San Diego, better price points. The problem is once you hit San Marcos Escondido, that carpool lane ends. So you are not getting a carpool lane if you are trying to ride share with someone. So now heading all the way up, you do not have any more carpool lanes. So you are stuck in traffic bumper to bumper every single day. So that's a problem with Temecula. So many people have moved here to live, but they still work in San Diego. So that traffic is god awful. And we'll talk about traffic here once I get done with the Marine side of the house here. All right, Marines, here we go. So if you're stationed on Miramar, obviously the same things apply heading south of Miramar. But it can be a little annoying getting to work. A lot of Marines, instead of heading to Spring Valley, what they'll do is they'll live in like Lakeside, Santee. Got a lot of good buddies who maybe some are in the Marine Corps still, some are not in the Marine Corps still, and this is where they chose to live, is Lakeside, Santee. Prices are a little bit more affordable, but it's actually a really easy drive heading to base, so it's not that bad. Areas like Poway, really expensive, so you're going to be paying a higher price in rent. Poway is a great community, but it's going to command a higher price. So a lot of times I don't see too many, especially enlisted Marines, who are able to afford Poway so much. Rent, yes, but in terms of purchasing, not so much. Mira Mesa, oh my God, they built these condo complexes there that are like $2,000 to $3,500 a month. It's insane. So if you're trying to live right off base in Mira Mesa, yes, there are rental units, but man, you are going to be paying a premium. So be aware of that before you get into it, because oh my God, you're definitely paying a premium. So honestly, having been stationed on Miramar, I'll tell you this: heading to Lakeside, Santee, and just south of base, traffic is just going to be a little bit less of a nuisance to you. It's still an issue everywhere, but I'm telling you. So I would make the drive from Miramar all the way up to San Marcos, and every single day, if it's morning and you're heading south and it's after work and you're heading north, you are stuck in bumper to bumper traffic every single day. And I can tell you, it is miserable. Now, do people do it all the time? Now, if you ride a motorcycle, hey, remember, you can lane split here. So maybe you can tolerate that. Maybe you're carpooling, you can kind of ride in the carpool lane a little bit. But if you're not, I tell you, man, you'd be ready for some traffic. Now, I will tell you, when I worked on night crew for about 1.5 years, oh man, you never have traffic. So keep in mind, it really depends on what shift you're working. If you're working a regular day shift, be mindful where you're living, because that can really kind of change up what you're going to be dealing with for traffic. Same goes for the 5. The 5 and the 15 literally lock down during those regular work hour traffic. It's god freaking awful. Now, some side areas. Ramona. I do know military members that will go out to Ramona because it's cheaper. It's country for a lot of you that are used to the city. Now, I grew up in the country. I wouldn't call it country, but it's out there. Ramona's out there. You're going to be a longer drive, but you can probably afford something to purchase out there potentially, but you're definitely going to be out there. So be aware of that. It's going to be annoying to go to a lot of things. Okay. Now, let's move on to Pendleton. All right, so Pendleton, you got a lot more options, to be honest with you. Pendleton probably has the most affordability options on any base here because ultimately, like, depending what part, it depends obviously what part of Pendleton you are on. We're going to talk about the south end here where a majority are going to be at. So, obviously, Murrieta, Temecula, best price points for communities by far. Like, I don't care if it's rent, you're looking to purchase, that area, going to be the best price points by far. Your traffic is still going to be kind of crappy. Not as bad as if you're coming from the south of San Diego, like Miramar and things like that. But man, Temecula and stuff like that, you're going to be dealing with that traffic on the 15th. So it is a negative side. Now, you can sometimes you can find affordable condos and rentals in Bonsall and Fallbrook. I lived in Bonsall for about a year and change. I love that area. Homes are over $1 million because most of them have a lot of land. But in terms of rentals and things like that, great communities. I love Fallbrook. I love Bonsall. It's not far from base. The 76 is freaking annoying though. I don't know why they chose to build a highway with stoplights. It is the dumbest design I have ever seen, and I don't understand it, and it'll probably never be fixed because that's just how this government works in this country now. But so obviously you can also be in Oceanside, Vista, San Marcos, Escondido. So San Marcos is some of the best schools in North County by far. Publicly, you can look up that public information. It just is. That's obviously where I currently am. So San Marcos is great, but it's expensive. It's not the cheapest. Escondido, some communities can be pretty sketchy when it comes to crime and things like that. So you can be mindful of Escondido. Vista can be the same. Oceanside, to be honest with you, is really trying to overturn itself. So Oceanside used to be like the crime community of the 90s. But they've really been trying to put a lot of work in. So there are good communities, there's expensive communities in Oceanside, and there's more affordable communities in Oceanside. So Oceanside isn't bad. It's really, if you're stationed on Pendleton and you're not looking to go to Temecula, it's one of the first places I would consider on top of Bonsall and Fallbrook when it comes to living there. But ultimately, Oceanside, Vista, San Marcos, it really depends on what community you're living in, what part, they all change. Okay, you're going to have high crime areas, low crime areas. They're all a toss-up. And if you talk to anyone from either community, they're going to tell you, oh, mine's the best. This one's the best. Look, from someone who isn't from here initially and just came here, I can tell you that they all have good, bad, and ugly. It's just a matter of what your price point is, what's your budget, and where are you trying to live, and where are you stationed. Like I said, I've seen a lot of people who worked out in Miramar and they live here, but Pendleton, you got a little bit better of a drive when it comes to traveling to these locations. All right. Now, just a general overview of everything San Diego for those who are looking to get stationed here. Carlsbad, Encinitas, Del Mar. So you sometimes can find condos that are a little bit cheaper here. I remember I had a conversation recently with a chief who was coming back out here, going to get stationed in San Diego. And she was like, look, I have my home here. I purchased. I'm going to rent it out. And her income was at the point where she's making good income. I'm like, well, are you looking to stay in San Diego? She's like, no. And I'm probably only on 3-year orders. I'm like, okay. So it probably made sense for her to rent. And she's like, well, I guess I'm going to rent near the beach because I have the ability to do that. And that's the thing about San Diego is you might not be able to afford living on the beaches, but sometimes there are more affordable condos and things like that become available. And maybe you do have the budget. Now, don't stretch yourself. Like I said, San Diego is a city that can really pull your feet from underneath you. But if you have the ability, hey, and you're not going to stay here, you don't even want a piece of real estate here, then this could be an option. Like, because if you're going to be here, why not be near the beach? Am I right? So it's something to consider. We're going to talk about now some quick options, like how can you save money in San Diego? So we're talking about the big ones first, housing. So yes, you can live on base, but they're going to take all your BAH, and guess what? Your regular pay is still having to pay for gas and food and all that other crap. So you're still losing in the long run, personally. Now, you want to live out in town. So the areas we discussed, those are your options for getting a lower payment up front. Ultimately, I've seen a lot of military members, especially if they have families, like they'll split the cost with another couple who's in the military or someone else to be able to cut the cost down for rent. That's always an option. When it comes to housing, obviously, it's really a matter of now, a lot of veterans are concerned about the down payment costs and stuff like that in San Diego, or even if they should buy homes. Look, I avoided buying a home for a long time until actually I was about to get out of the military, until I bought my first real estate here. My first home I ever bought was actually an investment property. It wasn't even here in San Diego because that's how much I was like, you know what? No, this is the worst place to buy a home. I despise California, but I've learned a lot in that time. And really what it comes down to is how long are you going to be stationed here? What's your plan when you go to move, whether you're getting out or you're eventually going to get orders away from San Diego. Sometimes a lot of the officers crowd, you guys get lucky. You'll get 2 enlistments here in San Diego as your main base. But for those enlisted, we kind of get moved around a lot. Like I knew if I were enlisted, I probably would have been pulled for a B billet knowing my luck. So you just gotta be mindful of what your orders are, because that's gonna come down to, should you do it? Do you have enough time to purchase? Now, closing costs are about 2% of purchase price around here, just to give you a quick little numbers thing. I'm not gonna dive too deep into it. So, you know, a lot of times right now, it is potentially an ability for a seller to pay that. It has to be the right situation to figure that one out. So you can kind of get around that. But in terms of debt and things like that, look, like in terms of grocery shopping, there's always shop coupons. There's like an app I have. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me, but there are apps out there that'll pull grocery store ads and just put it right on your phone. It's free. It's all Flip. It's called FLIPP is the name of the app. And the cool thing about that is you can shop your local grocery stores in your zip code, and you can find out what the deals are, and that can kind of be a way to get your food budget down, all right? Eating out, it's expensive. Heck, going to McDonald's is like a $10, $15 just for one person trip nowadays. It's insane. It can be a little bit cheaper if you just do the dollar menu, sure, but they always get you with taxes and things like that. So like that's where it really gets you, is eating out, not cheap in San Diego. So you got to make sure you're prepared for that when you get here. Now, there are a lot of fun things to do in San Diego. I feel like they always try and push the cost ones like gas lamp, things like that. Look, you can easily move. You can go to the beach for free. It's crowded, sure, but there's a lot of museums here. There's nature parks, hiking trails, a lot of hiking trails around Southern California that I really encourage you to look into. Don't forget, if you're in the military, Miramar, actually the hotel in Miramar, I forgot the name of it for the life of me, which is embarrassing, but so they actually contract for cabins up in Big Bear, California. It's not a couple hour drive, depending what part of San Diego you're in, and it's beautiful. You can actually, you know, rent them and go up there for a good price. For military only, you can go up there and rent those cabins. Big Bear is a great place to visit. There's a lot of beauty around San Diego that's still within a weekend drive for Liberty. So be mindful that there are a lot of ways to save money and a lot of activities here. Don't get caught up in like the grind, even though I know you're gonna be working a crap ton while you're in the military. Trust me, I get it. 12 on, which ends up being like 14 hours, 15 hours sometimes. But you gotta be mindful that there's a lot to do here, and just experience it, get out and do it. The budget thing's a lot hard being stationed here, but be aware that there are ways to cut the cost a little bit. Getting gas on base, highly recommend it. It's still better price. Costco's are big here, things like that, but that base gas is gonna be a little bit cheaper on average than around out in town. So hey, there's a lot of ways. Commissary, some things are cheaper, some things aren't, so take that with a grain of salt, personally, being out here. But you know, ultimately, if you're looking to make a move out here and you are having issues with a real estate decision, getting stationed out here, you need someone who's been there, done that, can walk you through step by step how to make a smart decision when coming to San Diego. You can reach out to the team right here. Call, email, text. I really don't care. Reach out to me. Let's have an unbiased conversation. Figure out, how can I help you? What are your needs? What are you trying to do? And make sure that you get stationed out here the right way, because if you don't know what's going on, you get lost in the process. And be mindful of who you listen to. I think the one thing I'm tired of hearing in San Diego is that, you know, everyone's a VA loan expert. Everyone's a veteran expert. The reality is, most of them aren't, right? They either aren't veterans, so they don't actually understand the process. They might mean well, but they don't understand the complexity of being a veteran. They don't understand, you know, the cost that we have to spend on a daily basis. So if they don't see a car payment or credit card, so like, oh, you're making good money, but then we have uniform stuff to take care of. Like, there's always things that come up, emergencies and things that we have to worry about that the average person just doesn't. So if you want to reach out to that number. If not, hey, I hope you got value in this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.